So your avoidant ex has left, and it seems like they don't give a shit. They don't care about you anymore, they've moved on, maybe they're speaking to new people, they've started new friendships, or they're even giving into activities that they never did before. And you're really confused, because once upon a time, you were the closest people in your lives. You prioritized each other, you gave everything, the relationship was good, and it worked. And then with the flick of a switch, everything just changed. Everything went to the complete opposite. I'm going to hopefully try and help you gain some clarity about why your avoidant behaves this way, and what it truly means for you. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is avoidants use a mechanism where they shut down before they break up with you. They challenge their inner critique, they shut down, they blame everything but themselves, they look for excuses as to why the relationship doesn't work, they use self-convincing tactics and find reasons why this relationship is wrong. Usually through methods like narrative rewriting, lies by omission, white lies, or even just methods of suppressing real emotions, all of which stem from a lack of emotional agency, which is simply their inability to self-regulate their emotions and not act from impulse. So to really make it understandable, they lie to themselves, they convince themselves that this relationship is wrong because they shouldn't feel fear and anxiety in a relationship if it was safe. Not because anything has changed, not because you've done anything wrong or the relationship is wrong, but because their avoidant tendencies tell them and convince them that this isn't safe for them anymore. And that's why in the weeks or months leading up to the breakup, you noticed an emotional distance. They suddenly stopped having deep conversations with you. They didn't want to know about your day or what you've done or how work was. They never really took an interest in what you enjoyed anymore because all they were doing was focusing on the inner feelings. So when the breakup happens and they leave, they seem so unbothered. They seem like they're so sure of their decision, like they're leaving for the right reasons. And it makes you question everything you know about this relationship because you sit and think, but that's the complete opposite of how I feel. And what most people don't know is that when avoidants leave, they enter a phase that we call delayed reaction. Now what that means is when they leave, they don't expect to feel the feelings of guilt and shame or regret from leaving the relationship. Because all the avoidant feels when they leave the relationship is that immediate relief of the weight lifted off their shoulders. From all the emotions they carried from the past, everything they started to associate with this relationship, all of it is no longer apparent. They've left and they feel that independence, they feel that freedom that they so missed. But all of that soon dies down. Once that phase of delayed reaction is complete, all the feelings of what was real, everything that they truly feel within themselves about you and the relationship will surface again. And that's when things start to get really, really interesting because the avoidant is then faced with a crossroads. And that crossroads is making a decision about their future. And those two options are continue with the path of independence that they've so chosen for themselves, or give the vulnerability and access to maybe messaging you or reaching out again. Whether or not they'll continue to choose their independence and keep running from the feelings, or whether they'll actually take the time to recognize what is real, take accountability, and realize, actually I want this. Now a lot of that comes down to maturity and self-awareness, but there are always signs. If they choose independence and they choose the path that they've so chosen, usually that comes with consequences for you. Now what I mean by that is usually you end up blocked, or they remove you off of social media, or they tell you directly that they either want friendship or they're just simply moving on. Or there'll be indirect signs where they're with someone new, they're pursuing new relationships, or you can see they're having fun and they've chosen independence but you're no longer in the picture. However, if they choose the other side, where they want to reconnect with you, there'll be indirect and direct methods that you can test. When an avoidant wants you back, they usually start to breadcrumb. They usually start watching your stories again on social media, they'll like your posts, maybe they'll speak to people that you know, whether it be mutual friends or family members, to pass on information. Maybe they ask about you to see how you feel, whether you're still open to a connection. And sometimes they'll send you a breadcrumb message where they say, hey, how are you? Something that's not overly vulnerable, but a way of testing whether you'll engage with them again. That's basically their way of testing the water, to see if you still care, to see if you're open to a connection again. Now, there are many ways that you should be careful about pursuing that path with them again, because there's ways you can handle it correctly and ways you can handle it very wrong, in the sense of rebuilding a connection or ruining your chances. If you want, I can make a complete separate video on that, just leave it in the comments and I'll keep it in mind. But all of this to say, you're avoidant acting like they don't care, doing everything but focusing on you and acting as if the relationship never happened, is usually just a self-manipulative tactic to show themselves that they're over this, when in reality they're not. All they're doing is suppressing emotions that are there, but delaying the healing that is inevitably going to happen. So rest assured, if your avoidant went cold immediately after the breakup or even beforehand, and completely switched up the way that they used to behave and the way they used to show up in the relationship, it's usually just a method of self-protection, not because they changed their opinion of you or because they don't love you anymore. I really do hope this was helpful to you in some way. If you are interested, I do offer a one-to-one call service. The link is in my profile, where you can speak to me directly on a video call for an hour. However, I don't push that service. If you want it, it is there. If you have any questions for me whatsoever, please leave it in the comments. I will try to answer every single one of you. If you have absolutely any video recommendations or things you want to know about avoidance or your situation, please leave it in the comments. I will try to make videos on those situations. But just please look after yourself and don't prioritize your avoidant ex over yourself, because you are your priority.